Welcome, you're listening to Abnormal Japan, a podcast based in Tokyo. We share our experience living in Japan while diving into abnormal topics. If you're an expat, curious about traveling, or just a lover of all things Japan, check us out. You can find our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube. All the links will be in the description. All right, let's get on with it. Hey everyone, I'm your host Bree. Welcome to season 2. Last episode we discussed the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, so check it out. As always, I'm here with my co-host.
Hello. My name is Ashish. I'm super excited because I get to talk about something I've been feeling lately. I love talking about my feelings.
Yeah, you do.
So,
all right, so let's get into today's topic, which is homesickness.
okay.
The concept is pretty simple, but in short, it's a distress caused by being away from home.
Distress.
People who experience this can have occasional moments of missing home deeply, or it can get even more serious and they can suffer with depressive and anxious symptoms, inability to focus in their everyday, they get withdrawn.
No.
Or anything else. It can also occur when your regular routine is affected from a new environment and when you're lacking your social support systems that you're used to.
Okay.
So we've been living outside the States for 2 years now, and homesickness definitely creeps up still. So we want to talk about how that experience is and how we deal with it. So, Ashish, have you felt homesick yet? And if you have, how many times?
So yes, I have. How many times is a tough question because it's kind of one of those things that just comes and goes. Like I'll feel it really intensely for a long time, and then sometimes it'll just be little moments of nostalgia. So I don't know how many times, but yes, I have felt homesick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. I will say it hit me pretty hard the first month we moved here.
So
because
you're saying, yes, you have felt homesick.
Yes, I definitely have. It's kind of a reoccurring thing. And it's weird because for me, home isn't like just Houston, Texas. It's wherever I move. But I just feel like I just made home where we lived. But we recently moved to an apartment before we came to Japan. And it was like one of our best apartments because it was like a storage container.
That was a really nice house.
It was a storage container apartment. So it was like a unique project this dude was starting. And it was like the most unique apartment ever.
Super dope. It was like we had nice views. It was super chill. We had a good layout going.
Yeah. So because we just moved there, and then we got the news to move to Japan. It was very bittersweet. So that first month living here, it was kind of a struggle because I was like, dang, I just made like that home for myself. And I had to like restart that here. And it was 10 times harder here because, you know, there's the language barrier. And then like also choosing only a certain amount of things to bring with you was really tough because it was like, okay, normally if you deal with homesickness, you have like objects or something like attachments to that home that you can feel comfortable. But I couldn't bring my entire like apartment.
Right. If the apartment is what you're missing, it's not like you can just, copy paste.
Yeah. And I remember we did the whole Mary Kondo method.
I think that was the first place.
Yeah, we did that right before, and luckily that helped out because if we didn't reduce a lot of stuff already, like that would have been hectic moving here.
And also, like, what are the things? This might be like a very vague, broad question, but like, what is it that makes a place home for you? Like, what makes you feel homesick for a place? You know what I'm saying?
I would say what makes something feel like home is a routine that I do. Also just having all my necessities. So like a nice bed, a nice kitchen, a nice bathroom, and that whole thing, so I can actually feel like I'm being taken care of first. And then to add on to it is like nice nature around the house, either the park or like a garden or something. And then something that I'm still struggling with here is like community. So if you can
Yeah,
find your
yeah,
like
yeah.
second family, then honestly that makes it feel like home.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see. No, okay. I just had that one question. I was like, what? So we're talking about homesickness. I'm like, what makes something home, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something different for everybody. So I want to ask you, I guess we kind of talked about it already, but when did you first notice homesickness when you moved here?
Um, I think when I first got here, it was hard to feel like I had any time to be homesick, I guess. That's more of what it was like. It was more so I didn't really have the luxury of looking back. I had to get adjusted really, really quickly. The first time I really felt homesick was maybe 6, 7 months, I want to
Mm.
say.
Okay.
Yeah, it was something like I just realized that I couldn't just hit people up and they can come over.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, normally if I'm free or, if I'm just bored, I can hit people up and then we can hang out. And I can make community here. Like, that's not a big deal. But I think not having that same, like, those same people around, I think that's what made me feel more homesick than anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, like, we've met people here, but when you first get here, you don't really know anybody. So,
Mm-hmm.
and luckily, we moved in together because a lot of people move to
Yeah,
Japan or, any new environment or new country by themselves. So we did have each other, and that did help with like the
true.
coping process.
Yeah, but I would
Uh,
say when I first noticed it is like 6 months, give or take.
mm,
It was a while into moving here, and I think even then we were doing a lot of things.
yeah,
So
like while you were teaching, I was figuring out like all the governmental stuff and like
right.
financials and like how do we get this thing for the house. It was mad crazy, y'all, but
It was hectic
we
more than anything.
yeah, we went through it and I feel like we learned a lot from it and we definitely know what to do next time if we do move to another new country.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it was definitely new cuz we've moved so many times before.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of use those skills, but it
Yeah,
was not
almost
the
like
same.
clockwork, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, but it wasn't the same. So,
Yeah, we never were like, oh, let's learn a new language and figure out where we're gonna move next. Like, nah, that was definitely a wrench in everything.
yeah. All right, so what do you miss most about the States?
Oh wait, no, you didn't answer. When did you first notice?
Well, I did in the first question. I said the first month.
Okay. First month. No,
Yeah,
you're right. You're
it
right.
was pretty soon. I mean, I'm not that emotional, so it actually took me off guard. I was like, oh
Mm.
wow, like what are these like waves of emotion? Like I was just like, this is very inconvenient.
uh,
Because I was like in survival mode. After we got like all the basic necessities,
right.
I kind of forgot about it. And then I think later in the winter, your
Oh
dad
yeah,
was like, hey,
yeah.
come to India. And I was like, oh, okay. So we went there. And I remember feeling kind of homesick for our little apartment here in Japan when we were in
Oh
India. I
right.
was like, oh, I want to go back to the apartment. And so I feel like that actually helped me associate our Japanese apartment with home.
That makes sense. That's actually a good point because then you're
Yeah.
like realign that sense of home.
Yeah. Because I wasn't even thinking about the States. I was like, I just want to go back to Japan. Like, India
Yeah.
was awesome, but I realized that I got actually comfortable.
Mm,
And then I think we went to the States in May, later that spring.
yeah,
So
that was a good time.
that's when I had like another huge wave of homesickness for the States again because I went
Mm,
to go see my family. I saw my brother graduate and I was like, dang, I am missing out. Like, there's so many things going on. And like the US, there's so many things going on. Like, it's always lit. In Japan, it's very slow and there's not that much exciting things happening, in my opinion.
right, and it's also partially where we live and like the things that are going on. It's very kind of like you gotta catch it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, and it's usually like very focused on culture here, and I'm not 100% fascinated with Japanese culture. Like, I
mm-hmm.
think it's really cool, but I'm not like a weeb or an otaku of Japan.
Yeah, and so if you're not
So
into that kind of
yeah,
thing,
I'm usually just not interested. I'm like, I mean, it's cool, and I mean, some of y'all who might like absolutely love Japanese culture might be like, what the heck? Why are you there? But I mean, life works in odd ways. But yeah, when I went back to the States in May and I had to come back, I was like, dang, I don't want to go back to Japan. So,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
hard for that point. What I miss most about the States, I guess, would be like I don't know. It's a lot of things. I don't know if I could pick one specific thing. I would say maybe diversity of food is a big thing for me because I love cooking, I love eating. So that's one thing I miss. Another thing is I don't like how, well, it's not that I don't like it. Japan is very it's very like what is a word? You know, when like things are based on like a situation, like you go to a place to do a specific thing and then you dress a certain way to do a certain thing, like it's very situational. Do you know what I'm talking about? So like,
I guess situational, right?
Yeah, I guess. In the States I feel like there's less, like there's more blur between those kinds of things. You know what I mean? Like you can do multiple things in different areas. You can go to Walmart and like chill wear, or you can like hang out with friends in a fancy area, or like there's different situations and not everything is as regimented, I guess. So I think I like that. It's like everything's super casual. That's what I miss.
Yeah, I do miss that. So like for me is I miss just like wearing whatever and people not freak out. You know, because like people generally dress all kinds of ways in the States, but in Japan, everyone's pretty conservative. Or like if you're in like the fashion central, then it's like super streetwear and like
Yeah, you gotta have a look.
Very eccentric. And then so if you are wearing conservative clothes, you seem dressed down. So it's kind of like extremes. And I just miss just wearing whatever. Also like more revealing clothing items. Here, if I do that, then the creeps come out. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I can see that.
I mean, there's creeps in the States, but usually they just stare from a distance instead of like trying to stalk you home.
Yeah, that's true. It's a different like it's a different kind of creep energy, you know?
Yeah, so I miss that a lot about the States, just like putting on whatever and just doing whatever. And I do miss the food. And I would say I miss like having the proximity to old friends and my family.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
That's something like you can't really replace anywhere.
Yeah, no matter where you're from, like if you have a community, you know, that is a big factor, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, it's fine. I think the space is nice because like while I was that close to my family and friends, like we hung out, and I'm not that family oriented, so I didn't hang out with my family all the time, but it was nice just having them, you know, just a drive away. But I feel like I spent a lot of time with those people in my life that I like coming here. It was like, okay, let's try something new with my life, you know, because I'm in my mid-20s. Let's experience something different, because I know some people will literally like live in their hometowns for their whole life, and whether they want to or not. And I didn't want to do that because I've lived in Texas since I was born.
Right.
So I was like ready to like leave.
Right. You're saying you're trying to like spread your wings or whatever. I get that, you know?
Yeah. So what helps you feel less homesick or rids that feeling completely if you're able to?
Nothing. I mean, like, I'm just going to be honest. Like, when I'm homesick, it's like I really just want to go be in that space, because to me, trying to remove that feeling is like substituting, and I'm not a big fan of that, because then I'm not going to be satisfied. It's going to make it worse. Like, that's me. When I'm homesick, I just try to think about all the good things about what I'm homesick for, and then I also try to remember, like, you know, technically I can always go back. Like, there's nothing stopping me from going back to the States, you know what I mean? So that's one thing. But yeah, nothing really like helps that feeling. How I deal with it, I guess, is like knowing that there are ways to still get similar things, or I think in one of the first episodes, it was Houston, Tokyo, something like that. In season 1, I remember talking about deep ties, like people, no matter where you are in the world, people that you can really like relate to and talk to. Having those people is super important. Yeah, that's what I do. It's just like I kind of talk about it, and then it'll pass, of course, and then yeah, that's how I deal with it. It doesn't make it go away, but it kind of makes it easier to handle.
So you just kind of like swim in those feelings until it goes away.
Yeah, or like just kind of feel it out. And I don't know, I try not to make myself feel any kind of way, because I've noticed that it makes it worse. Like if I'm sad or something, like trying not to be sad makes it worse. Like if I'm upset or homesick or something like that, like I've noticed, at least for me,
I think that happens with a lot of people. Like if you're trying to force any kind of emotion to go away, or force an emotion, then it usually doesn't work out.
Right. And so for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling homesick. I'm just going to talk about it. And like, thankfully, people are there to talk to about it. So yeah, that's how I deal with it. How about you? How you deal with homesickness?
So it depends on my moods, because I don't know. Normally I'm in a neutral state and I don't really care about many things. So I'm kind of the opposite of you. Like I know you feel a lot and I'm like, what are feelings? That's not a good thing, but I'm just being honest. So if I am in an emotional mood, I'll look at my sentimentals. So I did bring like a little folder of like goodbye cards and like birthday cards that we received right before we left, and like pictures of family and stuff like that, or even calling them. That's like if I'm really emotional, like I'll do like look at the pictures or whatever. Sometimes that doesn't help because it makes levels. Yeah, because sometimes it makes me feel like, oh man, I really miss it, because I'm like visualizing it. But sometimes it makes me more comfortable knowing that like that's there and family is still there, like a phone call away. But then sometimes it's just like eating a Burger King burger. It's like really random. True. It's just like I just want an American burger, not like Japanese food or something, because we eat a lot of like, maybe not directly Japanese food, but like everything kind of tastes similar here. Like everything has kind of like a fish flavor, or
it's very like similar cuisine elements. Yeah, so I get what you're saying.
And I just feel like everything we eat in our home is usually like Asian based, whether it's South Asian or East Asian. And I really miss like American food, or sometimes like eating like Hispanic food. Yeah, because that's the hardest to find here.
That helps me too, because I miss Texas so much. Like I know Southeast Asian, whatever, but like, man, I love Hispanic food. Like it's probably up there for me.
Yeah, I mean that's what I grew up on, so it sucks that like it's so hard to get here. And it's also hard to cook here, because I mean I like cooking, so if I was able to get a lot of the ingredients in the store, I wouldn't feel as bad. Yeah. And then sometimes just like distracting myself, like seeing what I love about Japan. It's like, okay, let's go do something fun, and like let's remember why Japan is fun, because I feel like it's very easy to get jaded here, because like I know like people outside of Japan are like, oh my god, you're in Tokyo, that must be so amazing. And like it really is, but it does get old. And
yeah, that's true actually.
The things that are all glitzy and glammy aren't anymore, and you're focusing on like paying your bills and doing your work, and so you don't always have time to go see those things. But sometimes I just go see those things to like remind myself, like, I'm in a dope city.
Yeah, and also it helps that like Tokyo is one of the like the big zones or like spots in the world. So there's always something, whether it's like, oh, I haven't thought about going there, or oh, maybe I want to try this, or even like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like sometimes it can be like, oh, I've seen it all, but like we really haven't, we haven't lived here our whole lives. So true. Imagine people who lived here, and then even then, like the city and the prefecture is changing all the time. So I get what you're saying. Like, I think distraction can be cool. Like it can be a useful tool.
Yeah. All right, so I wanted to talk about some tips that helps, that help with homesickness. I know we kind of dived into it a little bit, but I'm going to get started with them. So,
all right, what's up?
So something I would recommend when you first move to a new country, we are going to be mainly talking about Japan, because we are abnormal Japan and we live in Japan. but it could apply to any new environment for the most part. I would advise go to the tourist attractions first. So have fun, get to know the culture when you move here.
Okay.
So that like it's less of a hard hit, because the culture shock is real when you just sit down and think about it. And I'm not saying like distract yourself forever, but like have some bit of fun when you first get here if you can. And then once you get settled into your apartment and you know you got to go to work or do whatever, explore your new hometown. Like find your favorite new restaurant that you're going to go to like on every weekend. Find your favorite mall. Find a park that you can go to, like if you like running or if you just like walking and, you know, sitting and enjoying like the scenery, like have that go-to park. Find similar shops or hobbies that you can do that you used to do at home, and then have kind of like a mini bucket list so that you can explore on your free time. Like, so when you're not working, to go into town or go to a new area of the country and explore more. Because like there is going to come a time where you can't constantly be a tourist because it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
So that's what I would recommend. And it kind of like eases you into moving.
Yeah, for sure. I want to add on to that also, like, don't be afraid to try new things. Like if you want to pick up a new hobby, or if you see something that like, oh, I might want to try that, or you know, you want to pick up a new collecting, or you want to try some kind of like physical activity or something, you know. Yeah, don't be afraid to try stuff, because whenever you move to a new place, that is also an opportunity to kind of push yourself in different ways, I guess. You know. But yeah, that's pretty solid advice.
Yeah. I'd also say like get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh,
because it's not going to be your hometown. It's not going to be where you grew up. So do something that makes you uncomfortable more often so that you get comfortable with it, especially if it's like prevalent in the new place that you're living at. So something I noticed here when I got here was how crowded it was. Not like, because I know Houston also has a lot of people, but there's more space. Like people can be
very, very true.
in their own bubble and not bother anyone. But in Japan, it's like everyone's like shoulder to shoulder.
Ain't no bubbles.
Yeah. So I remember when we were doing the whole tourist thing when we first got here, I got real used to the crowded spaces. Like at first I would cringe and I'd feel kind of like claustrophobic. I was like, there's too many people, and it was like giving me anxiety because I do have social anxiety and stuff. But after like assimilating to that and getting used to it, now I can literally just go into Shinjuku Station, get to where I'm going to, and I don't even care about the crowds. I'm like, get out of my way.
Like, maybe not assimilation, it's like exposure therapy. You're just like,
yeah, exactly,
just be exposed to it a little bit.
And I don't know, I feel like when you kind of push yourself to experience uncomfortable things, it kind of sucks, but you feel stronger coming out of it because you're like, wow, that actually wasn't that bad, and I think I just needed to get used to it.
It's like emotional weightlifting.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So that's what I would recommend. Because like regardless of how little we stay here or how long we stay here, we're gonna have to deal with crowds.
True.
So now that's kind of over with, I'm good.
Trying to think of like what's something that makes me uncomfortable. I don't know. I mean, people in general make me uncomfortable, but like I don't know what is something that I can push myself. I think maybe for me trying more Japanese food.
Oh yeah, that's true. Because every time I'm like, oh boo, let's like eat this like interesting traditional dish. You're like, ew.
Okay, look. Here's the thing. It's because I'm so picky. Even with regular like non-Japanese food, I'm so picky. So I don't want to insult anybody who's making food.
That's true.
But at the same time, I'm like, but no, I gotta get over it. But I'm like, but sometimes there's just things I don't eat. There's textures I don't like, and I know this. So that's a struggle for me. Yeah,
for me, when it comes to food, I didn't like how much raw food there is here, like raw meats. I avoided that when I first got here, and I just explored all the cooked stuff first. So right. I kind of have my like, you know, go-to Japanese dishes here.
I have a couple. I think
yeah,
Yeah.
want to eat that.
I would say I've experimented very safely,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
I'll let y'all know if I try more Japanese food or if I try other restaurants or whatever.
Yeah, we should do a mukbang
No,
of Japanese food. Come on.
don't make me
Because
do it.
our grocery store nearby, all of them actually, they make like fresh, like just in the States, you know, like they do deli foods, but it's a lot of like kind of homemade
I'm gonna get
Japanese
roasted.
dishes. And so you literally don't even have to cook dinner. You can go over there, spend like $2, $3, and you have a whole meal.
I can't do that. The
Yo,
internet is gonna
if
tear
you
me
want
apart.
us to do a Japanese food mukbang, please comment below or go to Ashish's personal Instagram and
well, okay, if you leave a comment on Instagram, I'm not gonna look at it. Hit me on Twitter, like
okay, or hit him on Twitter and be like, hey yo, we want to see that mukbang.
No, oh my god, if y'all really want a mukbang, I'll think about it. That's all I gotta say.
All right. So something else that I would say is super advisable to help with homesickness, but also just to like, okay, let me just get to it. You want to get your neighbors and the town residents used to your face. So when you first come here, don't hide away. You know, I know it may be scary, especially for me, like with social anxiety. Now, just get out there, show your face, get the locals used to you. Because if the locals are used to you, they're going to be nice to you. They're going to be saying like,
This
Ohio
is very
gozaimasu,
true.
you know, like in the morning. And like, that's actually really nice when you're passing by someone and they say good morning to you. You know, like that's pretty nice because most of the time they would just ignore you. So get your neighbors to know you, befriend them if you want, you know, just kind of be civil. And that actually helps you form a like neighborhood community. So that to me would help with homesickness. Okay, so when moving here, since most times, especially if you're moving to like a rural area or just a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of people like you, the neighborhood's gonna know that you're there. Like you may not think that the neighborhood knows you're there, but they're gonna be like, there's a foreigner who moved in, and they're probably talking about you. So like I said, first impressions really count. So just be nice.
Yeah, you could try to be slick, but they'll know. Yeah,
because once like, you know, the nosy neighbors vet you, then you'll be good to most of the people that you'll probably never see. And also like you don't want them scared of you, especially here in Japan. Like they kind of are standoffish with Black and brown people, because they have a lot of assumptions. And if you can kind of break those assumptions, like, hey, we're nice and we're not scary, you know, then you'll actually have a good time.
This is true. I wouldn't say go out of your way to like be extra kind to people, but I do think like genuine kindness and, you know, being unafraid of talking to people,
yeah,
that
just
I
like
think goes
simple,
a long way.
just simple nod, hello. Maybe it's a text to me, but like I remember, oh my god, this is like a mini story time. I remember when we first moved here and I tried like waving to one of the older men neighbors.
Right.
I was like, hey, hello. And I was like, oh my God, that was so American. Like, I was like, what the heck? And he was freaked out because I was waving. I was like, right, I'm in Japan. It was like the first week or so. And it took like months for me to kind of get that old man used to me, because he was like kind of scared. He was like, what is this lady? Like, why is she waving at me?
Yeah, it's like, what did I do? Did she need my attention? What's going on?
Yeah,
like,
that's probably what he was thinking. But I was just like, hey, good morning. And I was like, oh, not a good move. I feel you.
I mean, even in Texas, I would nod at people wherever. So like, I'm kind of just used to like doing a little head dip. But because I walk to work, there's people that I've seen for like the last 2 years almost, like every day, and I can tell like, oh, I'm going at this time, I'm gonna see this person, or like I'm going at this time, I'm gonna see this person. Or if I go like a different route, I see like another old person. Like, it's just people on their commutes. Like, you eventually get to know people even if you don't really know them. Like, your presence is, what is it called? They're made aware of your presence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And every little bit counts.
Yeah, there's this adorable little grandma. She always walks her dogs. One time she was like, oh, good morning. I was like, oh, good morning. She's like, itterashai. I was like, you tell me itterashai? I don't even know you. Oh my God.
So for the listeners, what does that mean?
Oh, itterashai is like, I don't know how to explain. It's like, go be safe. Like, don't go out and be safe. Basically, I don't know. Or like go and come safely.
Yeah, like come back. Because it's sometimes what people say when you're leaving home to go to a place before you come back.
What did they say? So when you're leaving,
Or is that
it's like itekimasu.
Okay,
Like,
never
I'm
mind.
gonna be back.
I don't
That's
know.
like I'll be back, and iterasha is like, okay, go and be back safely. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something like that.
So she's like, hey, I want to keep saying hi to you every day. So come back.
Precious. And she was walking her 2 little dogs. I was like, dang. Thanks, Grandma. Hope you're enjoying this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. Want us to ramble about another topic? Drop a comment below on our Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Links, as always, will be in the description. All right, back to the podcast.
So another thing I would say is eat and shop like the locals. So like we kind of mentioned, try new foods, shop where they shop, because
save money.
Especially if you do live in Tokyo and you live closer to Central, there's a lot of shops that you can kind of still get your American goodies, like or like whatever country you're from. No, like try to shop where Japanese people shop, because one, it'll be cheaper, and you'll try new things, and you'll make more of those foods because they're more, financially available. And also you can make fusion dishes. Like we make those a lot. Like we'll use Japanese ingredients to make like Indian dishes or Hispanic dishes.
I feel like we used to do that beforehand though, so I think we kind of gravitate towards that. But for people who don't, they might be a little worried about like messing up a fusion dish, or if they're not used to fusion cooking, like I can see what that might be a concern is.
That's true.
I think baby steps for sure. Like there's so many little things that I didn't even know we could do, like garlic and ginger, like already minced garlic and ginger in like tubes. Like that's super useful.
Because that's not something I used to buy in the States.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy that either. I would just mince it, right? But like that's super convenient, and it's also cheap. That's at a grocery store. So like baby steps for sure. And this is cheap.
This is stuff that like you're probably gonna do throughout your first year or even longer, because like people they settle at different rates. So like for you, it may just take like 2 months. For some, it may take like 2 years. So just do these things in baby steps.
Yes.
Also, another thing is make your new space yours. So make it comfy, make it a place to unwind, like personalize your apartment or new home or new room. Even if it's just like one thing or a couple of things, because I feel like when you're out in this new environment, it's gonna like you may feel kind of okay with it, but I think mentally your mind's like, I don't feel safe. Like I want to be at home. So if you can actually make your new home more homey, then you'll actually feel comfortable and safe.
This is true. And also Japan is a great place for collectors. So if you're collecting things, like it's a good place, because you can get so much like, what is it called? Not merchandise, but
like novelties, souvenirs.
Yeah. Like you can get a whole bunch of stuff to really deck out your place.
Yeah, that's true. Because they have a lot of small, cute things. Also, just like very practical needs. Even for like at their dollar stores. They're like 100 yen stores.
Yeah.
They have a lot of cheap, practical things for your home. So.
And almost everything is cute.
Yeah, that's true.
So. Like you're bound to like something.
Yeah, not every country is like that, but if you're coming to Japan,
yeah, they got you. Don't worry.
Yeah, if you like cute stuff, you'll be fine. So another thing that we kind of experienced as well, our first year and a little bit into this year, is meet up with other foreigners and locals. So kind of do like a language exchange group, like a mixed group, go to some bars, go to some festivals, have some picnics. And it's actually something really interesting where you have people who speak your own language, and then the like locals who live here who speak Japanese. It's like, whoa, like the whole intersection of like trying to share each other's culture and foods and language is actually very unique. And I never thought I'd experience that in like that raw of a level. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because like those kinds of groups are very self-motivated, I find.
Yeah.
So it's it's super easy to get to know people because they're willing to put themselves out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
because
feel
they
like,
want to learn English, and then you probably want to learn Japanese,
yeah.
so it's perfect.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time whenever people move somewhere, they find it a little intimidating to talk to people, but like in those settings where it's explicitly like, "Hey, let's get together despite the language barrier." I feel like it's really easy to.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
less pressure, and it also makes me feel more comfortable too, because like in the everyday, I don't feel that comfortable speaking to certain people because my Japanese level isn't that high. So I
Mhm.
definitely, it depends on the situation. But in social groups, I'm like, okay, it's like casual. I can kind of mess up more and it's
Yeah.
fine.
And it's
Hmm.
also a perfect place to say, "Hey, how do you say this?"
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And then you
Like,
can teach each other like casual words and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
slang. Yeah, it's cool.
It's perfect.
But I would do that to help with homesickness so that you have like a little foreigner group that you relate to. And then also you can slowly make local friends. And in our case, more Japanese friends.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. All right. So for those of you who love family and old friends, and maybe you have a huge family or something, definitely like call and chat with those people. Like
Yep.
call your family, call your friends, set up a group chat.
Deep ties, deep ties.
Yeah, share pictures. Like, so while you're taking pictures and wherever you are, share pictures. You can even start a blog. You can start a podcast like we are doing. You can start a YouTube channel, something like just have fun and something you can share with your family. But I would also say learn to also live without being in contact all the time, because sometimes
Mm.
when you're like constantly calling your family, you may not be able to detach and then kind of live in your new home. So just have a good balance. And then if you have the chance, which is like not always the case, invite them over to your country. So we were lucky enough to have your mom visit us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was last summer.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit after we got back from the States. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I've never been to Japan. I want to visit, and y'all are there." So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was nice having like a piece of home in Japan. It was like, wow, like seeing someone that is so familiar
Right, right,
in this
right.
new setting was like mind blowing for
It
me at
was
least.
it was kind of weird. It was funny too, like whenever we took her places, like she had a different reaction from what we would have had or what we do even now. So like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just like sharing those experiences is super, I don't know, it's super fun. But yeah, I also want to say, like, if you are like really connected to people, like you were saying earlier, it is important to get some time to yourself, because again, if you are moving somewhere, you're gonna have new experiences, you're gonna grow. So like introspection too, that is something that helps me with homesickness, is like, remembering the things that I like about home or the States or wherever I'm missing, and then trying to think like, okay, why do I miss those things, and how can I like, have that here too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, these are all pretty good, and we are coming to a close with some of these tips. And if you have any in mind, drop a comment, because like we definitely
Yeah.
could use any of the tips. Because like we said, we've only been here 2 years. We're still dealing with homesickness occasionally. It's lessened
Yeah,
a
it's gonna
lot.
hit eventually.
It's lessened a lot, but we're always open to new tips. So, okay, I would also suggest is to eat something from your own country. Find your culture here. So, if you're from a certain country or an area, see if there's people like you here, because you may be surprised. Even in places in Japan, there's so many different cultures, just like in different corners of Japan. So, maybe they're not that close to you where you can just like drive over or anything, but you can find a Facebook group and maybe you can plan a vacation to see those people like later in the year. But I think finding that culture and then eating food, maybe they have a restaurant, that would definitely help with homesickness.
For sure. Like, especially if you have a very specific cuisine. Like, I know whenever we go anywhere, like around town, we're always like, okay, what are the spots around here? And like, I know
Yeah.
I'm always on Google Maps, like, all right, where's the Indian food spots? Where is there a
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic food spot around here? Like,
Yeah.
what do we have?
We eat a lot of like our culture food. And so when people are asking us, like, oh my God, have you tried this Japanese dish? And we're like, No.
Not yet.
Mainly because like my stomach is still kind of getting used to Japanese dishes because like I said, it's a lot of raw stuff, or it's like, I don't know, surprisingly super salty from the pork.
Or fried. A lot of fried stuff.
So when we first got here, I had to ease into it. So I ate a lot of stuff that was from my home country. I mean, it's not very normal of a typical foreigner here because some foreigners like they're like, oh, let's eat all the ramen and all the gyozas and all the what else, sushi,
udon, oden, all that.
Yeah, and I'm like, pass.
Yeah, I think for me it's a texture thing, and a lot of Japanese food plays with different textures. So like you can have a crunchy thing, and like this probably sounds bad, but like a slimy thing. I don't know what else to call it.
Slimy thing,
like seaweed or like certain vegetables or certain meats. Like I don't know. I'm not big on the differences in textures that much. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's partially why I've kind of stayed away from it. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like if you want to feel like you're at home, like nothing beats that than like a good bite. You know what I mean? So
yeah, once my stomach gets a little bit stronger, I think I'm going to try some more traditional foods because it looks good. Like it literally looks like the food you see in anime. Like it's exactly picture perfect, and it's like I want to try it because it smells good and it looks good, but my stomach is like, nah.
You might have like an adverse reaction or something, but I think it's been 2 years. I think we could do it. Well, I think you could do it. I don't know about me. I'm just saying
that mukbang.
No.
But yeah, so other things I would recommend is make sure you're checking in with your mental health. Especially if you already have like a disorder or something, make sure you're keeping in tune with that and you're taking care of yourself. Have a reliable routine, because I do know when you have like, okay, this is what I do around this time, and you know, just a routine. When you have that, you can feel safe, like, okay, these things are gonna happen. You know, you don't have to be super strict about it, but it does kind of make you feel like you're at home.
I think, yeah, what you said, reliable, is a key word there. Because even if you don't have something that's fixed, having something that you can fall back on, I think is key.
Yeah. And then just do things you love, you know, whether that's new things or old things. Just make sure you're having fun, even if it's just one day out of the week. Treat yourself.
Love yourself.
Yeah, like treat yourself, love yourself. Don't forget about yourself, you know. It's very easy to be people pleasers, especially if you're coming for work. But make sure at least once a week you took care of yourself. Yeah. At least, minimum, if you can. And then rest, because we came to Japan, so we're 13, sometimes 14 hours ahead from Houston, Texas. So that jet lag was something to get used to.
And we also time difference, like
the time difference, and we went to India and back to the States. So like, I feel like I didn't really settle with jet lag until like last summer.
Yeah, even when like we first got here, like we were like, oh, let's go check out Osaka. We went down to Osaka and traveled again. Like,
so yeah, definitely rest whenever you can. Because I know like after you're working or whatever, you want to like watch all these shows or whatever, but make sure like you're getting enough sleep. Have a self-care day or half a day or an hour, something where it's like me time. You know, we're not having to talk to anybody else or deal with anybody else. If you can, I know situations are different. You may be a parent, you may not have the means to, or something. Like, just, I feel like if you find something to work in your schedule, it'll be meaningful and it'll really help you out in the long run.
And I know a lot of people struggle with that. Me especially, I want to add more things to my schedule, but I find it difficult to, you know, navigate time management, at least for me. And I know I'm not a parent and I'm not like a super busy work person or anything like that. But one thing that I find useful is like, even if I don't get to do self-care that day, like recognizing that like, hey, I tried, and then going about it the next day is important. Because a lot of times you can think like, oh, well, I just haven't done it in a week. But like, if you recognize it when it happens, like, oh, I can't do it right now, you're more likely to be like, okay, let me try harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a buttload of things. Like, it can literally just be like napping and watching Netflix all day. Like, or it could be where you're taking a bath and you're doing your hair, and like it
Mm-hmm.
could be a spa day. Like, it literally is up to you. Like, whatever your needs are, just make sure you make time to take care of yourself.
Yeah, it could be like 5 minutes and you make a really good cup of coffee. Like whatever it
Yeah,
is for
that's
you,
true.
like find something that, addresses your self-care needs.
Yes, all of that, yes. And then, along with the whole mental health, make sure you have that somebody to talk to about how you're feeling. Now, not somebody that you can emotionally dump on, because people still need to be respected, but just someone who you can rely on if you ask, hey, can I vent to you? And they're like, yeah, I have the space for it. And then someone who can just be there to listen, because things get rough whether you're moving or not, and it's better to not shut in and ignore people. Like, make
Yeah.
sure people still hear about you, because whether or not you think people care about you, there's bound to be somebody that cares about you, and assuming that they don't, it's not really best for either of you. So if you have that one person, you can talk to them and they'll make sure that you're okay, and vice versa. Because especially in Japan, gosh, it can be very depressing, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
depressed souls
There's a
here.
lot of shut-ins I've noticed. And I know
Yes.
like the word hikikomori, like
Mm-hmm.
isolated. I guess it means isolated person. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a shut-in person who
Yeah.
like hardly ever leaves their home.
Yeah. And like
Mm-hmm.
most of their interaction is like digital or like through SNS. Like they're afraid of meeting people, or, they have issues
Yeah.
that they have to address.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that here, but I also noticed a lot of the times it's because it's kind of hard to break that shell. It's
Yeah,
kind of
because
hard
it's
to.
a very conformist country, and you can't really go beyond the structure here. So I feel like people feel trapped. I
Mm,
definitely do. I feel a lot more trapped here. I feel like I can't express as much. And also, like, you don't really need a lot of people involved when you do things. Like, you can literally do so many things by yourself, or have a lot of things
mm-hmm.
delivered where you don't really need to leave the house ever. So I could see how there's so many shut-ins in Japan. So especially if you're moving to Japan, or a country with a high self-harm rate, just make sure that you're not falling into that like energy.
Yeah, make sure you're good, because
Yeah.
it's very easy to. And I'm not like a mental health expert or anything like that, so like take it with a grain of salt. But it's very easy to kind of justify how you're feeling if you don't address it. You know what I mean?
True.
Like it's really easy to justify, oh, I haven't been out in a couple of days, or I haven't talked to
Mhm.
anybody in a week. Like it's really easy to justify that. But then if you address it like, hey, it's been a week, maybe I should text somebody. Or like, hey, I haven't been outside in a couple of days, let me just go outside to the vending machine or the convenience, like, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's really easy to address, and that also goes part to be uncomfortable a little bit. If you feel
Yeah.
like you're going through something, sometimes you need to shake it up a little bit, so that's,
Mhm.
I don't know, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. I'm
Yeah,
just
this
saying,
is
like,
this is all up to you. All right. So one of the last points is, if none of this works out for you, just go back home when you can.
yeah.
Because I know if you move to a new country, usually financials are usually that stops you from moving back home,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a buttload of money to go and move overseas, so it's just about the same to go back. But if you do all these type of things, like all these tips and more, and they just don't work for you, and you're really feeling homesick and you just can't help it, it's okay to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
Just plan it, make sure you have a smooth exit. You're not like gonna go in debt or anything like that. Just like take it easy and kind of look forward to moving back home.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and say your goodbyes to whoever you knew here, and just maybe even plan to live in a different country. Like, maybe you don't want to go back
Yeah.
home, but maybe a different country suits your needs better.
And I also think if you're trying to live in another country but it doesn't work out for you, like it you need to make sure that it does the job of what you needed it to. You know what I mean? Like, what did your travel do for you?
Yeah, like what did
learn
you
from
come
it?
here for?
Yeah. And so if you really, really don't like it, like this goes for anywhere, not just Japan. If you move to another country and it's like, oh, you know, it's not what I wanted it to be, or it's not giving me what I thought it was, you know, if you decide to leave, make sure you take something with you, whether that's like experience or memories or some kind of souvenir. Yeah. Something. Because you don't want to just leave, unless you had some kind of like, you know, trash fucked up experience. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You know, but yeah, it just makes sure you take what you get from where you go. You know what I'm saying? Because like I know once I leave Japan, shit, I'm gonna take a lot of things from here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take like all kinds of different like influences. I'm gonna take like architecture stuff. I'm gonna take a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, if you are gonna leave, you know, try to leave on a positive note versus a negative note, if you can.
If you can. If not, then get the fuck out of here.
Just go.
Just go. Don't look back. No one's going to be mad. Just do what you got to do. Because sometimes we can feel like trapped. And we're like, no, but we made this huge move and we don't want to move. And what? No, like, if you have to, do it. Just be safe. Let's close up this episode with some final thoughts. I want to know, has it gotten easier for you? Like, in regards to homesickness? And what can you see yourself doing to feel more at home?
I'm gonna let you answer that one because I kind of have to think about the first question.
Okay, that's fine. I would say it's definitely easier than that first month. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
that first month was, wow. It was a lot. Maybe I'll go into detail into it one day, but I don't want to depress y'all. But it has gotten easier, and I think just knowing more tips and knowing what makes me uncomfortable, like being aware of it, makes me address it more. So it kind of helps me cope and heal. So I think I have more awareness of that stuff. And then what can I see myself doing more to feel more at home? I think just doing things that I love, you know, and reminding myself of why I like Japan. Because, like,
that is true.
I'm not like the typical foreigner who loves Japan. I'm kind of the opposite. I didn't really care for Japan. No offense to anybody. So I definitely had to find things that I loved about Japan when I got here. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm saying I think a lot because this episode is very, like, you know, kind of off the dome for me. The question, has it gotten easier for you? It's both yes and no. Yes, in that when I feel homesick, I can address it better. But no, in that it hasn't, the actual like homesickness hasn't gotten better. If anything, it's gotten worse. Because I never quite understood what working somewhere else could afford me. Like, you know, I'm working out here and it's not a bad gig and we live in a new country. It's a whole new experience. And it's really something wonderful that not a lot of people get to do all the time. Right. So I understand that, but it's also hard because then it makes me wonder what I would be doing if I hadn't got this opportunity in the place that I love to live in. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I love it out here. It's been like, this is a good timeline, you know what I'm saying, with the branching timelines or whatever. Like, it's not a bad timeline, but
yeah, I mean, not everyone gets to move to Japan. I'm just saying.
And that's what I'm saying. So like, I'm like, am I homesick because I'm unsatisfied with it here, or am I homesick because I miss where I was, or am I homesick because I want to explore other opportunities of like career or like a location, like you know what I'm saying? Like I want to know what that is. So it hasn't gotten easier, but it's gotten easier to navigate, I guess. And that's so yes and no.
Okay.
And what can I see myself doing more to feel at home? I don't know. I've never really lived in any one place for like a super long time. Like the longest I've ever lived in a place is Texas for like a decade. So like, I don't know. I'm just forced to like make home wherever I'm at. So that's
you're
not
kind of
really,
like more used to moving.
Yeah. Because I've moved a lot, like so much. But I think things to make me feel more at home, maybe just like getting things that I would like to use on a daily basis. So like, you know, maybe a bicycle, a CD player, you know, a couple sets of headphones so I can like rotate them out. Like things that make routines easier, or things that make something, like things that make my daily life something that I don't have to think about. Like, oh, let me just go on a bike ride, or oh, let me just switch out my headphones. Like things that make me feel more comfortable. That's what I could do.
Those are actually pretty good, because I mean, especially if it's like your interest or things that you like to do, I mean, you're gonna enjoy your everyday more if you have those things.
I think immersing myself in every day.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of heading into buying more things for our wants now, because when we first moved here, we didn't think we were gonna live here more than a year. So we were like, let's just get the basics. Super up in the air. Yeah, we were like, let's just get the basics, let's just survive. But then second year came around, and then we're like, you know what, we can actually stay here for the next few years. So now, like, we're making our home more of a home, and I could see us actually buying things that we want versus what we need in the upcoming years. So yeah, I think
not in like a frivolous way, in like a you know, this would be a good thing to have around kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah. All right. So if any of y'all have ever dealt with homesickness or anything of that sort, let us know. Leave a comment. We'd love to know people's stories or just advice. And yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. This will be a weekly pod versus a season drop like season 1. And if you want more content to pass the time, check out season 1 if you haven't already. There's 8 episodes and there's no rush. And we also have a YouTube video about what fast food is like in Japan while we eat sour seasonal snacks. It's actually pretty funny.
The sour one, oh my God, that was too much.
Yeah.
If y'all really want that Japanese food mukbang, don't hit me. You gotta hit Brie. Don't.
All right. Or just leave a comment on that YouTube video, and then we'll know. And then, yeah, we appreciate everyone who tuned in. And if you have any topic suggestions, leave a comment. And yeah. All right. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Have a hottie summer.
Thanks for listening to the Abnormal Japan podcast. Stay tuned for future content by following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Support us by leaving us a review, sharing us on your socials, or even joining the Abnormy community on Patreon. Until next time.